Everybody, we're back. Finally, the Ringside Apostles, episode 3. Hard to keep track because it's been a while, but I'm back with Destiny Edwards. What's going on? It's Travis Moody.
Hey, good to be back.
Hell yeah. And man, I was contemplating this one because how do we start off so explosive on the show?
I see what you did there.
This is one way. I usually don't drink during these shows. I used to. I usually don't even drink at home when it's just me. But after dealing with Sean in the Sean and Sean show, this Steve Weiser's for you. Now, give me a hell yeah. Let's talk AEW Revolution 2021. We're also end cap with the New Japan Cup. You've seen the New Japan Cup, right?
I've seen night 1. I have not seen night 2 and 3 yet.
Cool. Well, whatever. We'll talk about it. And but let's get the cat out of the box because they didn't God, the elephant in the room. Where do we start? Okay.
That ending.
Yeah, we'll go right to it. We'll talk about the big news first, and then we'll go match for match and break down the show. But Destiny, yeah, the exploding barbed wire death match for the AEW World Championship between Kenny the Cleaner Omega and John fucking crazy ass Moxley. Your thoughts immediately?
It was such a good match, and then that dud ruined it.
Did it really ruin the whole match for you like it did for the internet? Or
I mean, it didn't really ruin the entire match, but it's one of those things where it's the very last thing you see, and then Eddie Kingston still sold it. It was just oof. I do have to say though that I kind of like them just rolling with it and being like, yeah, well, it turns out Kenny can't build a bomb. Guess he should have called Coda.
Where was this interview? Because I missed it. I think I had shut it. Was that still part of the pay-per-view, or was that on YouTube, or what? Where was that? John Moxley cut a promo. When was that? Off air?
No, that was right after, I believe. And then
I thought they went off the air with them, with Eddie draped over him, and I thought that was it. He came back. Was it back on air?
Not that I saw. All the stuff I saw afterwards were tweets about it.
Okay, so it was on Twitter.
Okay. And then Tony Khan said that that Kenny gave them a diagram that was written in crayon, and
okay, they got creative with it. They tried. I would have just, me personally, I would have just let it go and just moved on. Just completely moved on. The saddest thing, like you said, it was a great match. I mean, what would you give if you took out the dud ending? What would you give this match on a scale of 5?
I would have given it a 4.5. I really, really enjoyed it, and it was like, and there were some really, really cool spots. The fact that they still kept the One-Winged Angel protected, even after using it as a way to for Mox not to actually lose to it, was actually really cool. Having them set off the bomb to break it.
Yeah, that was sick. And then he did one on the chair that was spiked too. That was sick. And then you had the big explosive spike bat that was given from Luke Gallows. I thought the Good Brothers interference went on way too long and dragged down the match. But I think still that was
the story of the night.
Yeah, go ahead.
Everything kind of felt like it just went on just a tad too long.
Mm-hmm. Yep, overbooking. Definitely. I mean, I thought the explosions during the match were good. They were fine. I know people, of course, after the fact, they're like, oh, those suck too, and all that. Is like, but I watched the pay-per-view with shout out to Dave, John Kent, and Kevin Wish. Watched it with 3 people who are, one's a casual wrestling fan, pretty much just loves AEW. The other 2 guys are hardcore wrestling fans, but they don't really get to watch AEW. They don't have cable, whatever. They're kind of just used to watching the NXT and, you know, WWE stuff or whatever, but they were open to watching this and they loved it. I mean, they loved the barbed wire match up until the very end. So these are three people who are not truly, they're not marks. They're not apologists for AEW that I get accused of all the time. And they're just, you know, casual wrestling fans, and they love the barbed wire match. It was definitely something they've never seen before. They weren't aware of Onita and all the, you know, the Big Japan and all this old school stuff. But they thought the explosions, I mean, yeah, we all, like, when they happened, we all popped out. We popped literally out of a chair off the couch for it. I thought they were good. They weren't like, I don't know what people were expecting. Maybe they're confusing you know, like the pyro table matches with this. It's a different ball game with the barbed wire. They didn't really watch the build up to this at all. But yeah, Eddie selling Gilbert's firecrackers at the end was definitely a total dud. Someone should have gave him a heads up. I know, so like a trainer went in there to make sure they were okay, but someone should have yelled out. Maybe you could hear it on TV because the lack of a crowd, that's a huge problem. But someone, I know is not real, and there's a ref there, but I know he was kind of dismantled, but someone really should have let Eddie know, like, hey, it didn't go off, because the story that John and Kenny are telling after with Tony is fine, but it's ruined by Eddie selling. I mean, there's no saving that. I mean, it's hard to fault Eddie. Eddie had one job. He did it. And maybe it was too loud, like even without the big bang, it was still too loud enough for him to realize, you know, he's draped down. His eyes are down. I mean, I don't think he really realized what happened. So he was put in the worst spot in the world there, but what are you going to do?
Yeah, pretty much. And that's probably exactly what happened, because even as a dud, it was probably still hella loud in that ring.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. I don't know. Do you want to move on? I want to move on from it.
What else can we say about it that hasn't already been done to death?
Right. Done to death. You killed it there. All right. Christian Cage. He it's not Kurt Angle. It's not Bret Hart. It's not CM Punk. It's not Brock Lesnar. It's Christian. We knew this, right? I mean, we knew it was going to be either he was going to be in the ladder match or he was going to be there. I mean, we didn't know it, but we kind of had an idea. I mean, it made sense. There was some information that was leaked on social media with contract stuff with WWE and didn't come to terms. So it made sense. I think Christian wants to be his own guy. Edge kind of made that comeback, and Christian showed that he got a little pop in the Rumble. He look real good. He doesn't look his age at all. And I mean, I think it's a solid signing. Destiny, what's your take on this?
I mean, I'm happy. I fucking love Christian. And I love Christian best when he's outside of WWE and not trying, like, and isn't basically being in Edge's shadow, despite, you know, being better at literally everything than Edge.
Whoa, that's real. That's big talk. It's big talk. I don't know. I'm more of an Edge head than a Captain Charisma guy, but I still got love for Christian, especially, I mean, when the early days of Impact, when it was actually a great company, you know, pretty, I wouldn't say great company, but solid company with Kurt Angle, Samoa Joe, AJ Styles. You had some Christian fit right in. He fit right in, and he was in that world title picture and did a great job. I think it's a solid signing. I think the big thing is this, don't overpromise, and then you can deliver. I think that's what happened tonight. They overpromised a lot of things and they underdelivered. I think if you don't promise anything, like look at Maki Ito, which we're going to talk about in a second. She was a surprise, a total surprise, and got the biggest pop of the night. And I think Christian would have got a great pop if there was no build up like Paul White. I know Paul White's new. He's trying to make himself like, you know, I don't know, a kind of like an insider type guy now. So he's like, oh yeah, Tony Schiavone gets all the scoops, but I got one for you. And it's like, yeah, but dude, you're blowing everyone's heads up. You know how social media works. It's like, if you're that journalist, then you know better to temper everyone's expectations. And then Tony Khan didn't help, saying it's one of my favorite wrestlers of all time. We're all thinking, who the hell is it? Ric Flair, like Bret Hart, like, you know, some of our expectations are a little too wild, but yeah, I don't know. Overall, solid signing. Just they shouldn't have said anything. He should have just showed up And
yeah, if you're going to have a legend, at least if you're going to bring in a legend, at least bring one in that can still go. Like, I like the idea of having all the older guys be managers, but you still need like a young vet, a younger vet, I guess, like to still go in the ring. And yep. Cody wants to be that. Cody is never gonna is not gonna be that. No matter how much.
Why is that? Why do you say Cody is never gonna be that?
Or at least he's not gonna be that right now. And Cody's basically said that he's done wrestling when he's 40. And he's 35 right now. So he's got like what, 5, he's got maybe 4.5 good years left in him before he's just done.
Yeah.
But I think that's a lot of it is he wants to be that is that he wants to be that vet in the locker room general, and it's more like he's still a contemporary. And yep. Even though and plus on top of that, he's pretty much he's booking most stuff and booked himself into a title because he booked himself out of another title. It's just not gonna be him, I don't think. And I really think they need someone else to fill that shoes. And yeah, we have Dustin, but Dustin's like 50 something now.
Well, he's working with the ladies. So
yeah,
that's his real job there. I mean, he's still in the tag team picture and whatnot. And like, who knows right now, actually, after what happened in the Casino Royal, and we'll get to that in a second. But yeah, I think that's a good point. I think the whole thing is toxic social media, another WWE guy, like they're that whole thing the WWE marks are using that against this company because they keep signing WWE guys, but it's like, who's out there? You know what I mean? They can't sign anyone from New Japan. They can't even sign anyone from All Japan. These guys are locked in. They could work with these other companies like you see in Impact and what in NWA and whatnot, but there's no one else out there. They're all picked up, and especially, I think Christian's a solid signing, but yeah. All right, let's get to the card. AEW Revolution 2021. The buy-in. So I told you about the surprise. It was Riho and Thunder Rosa versus Dr. Baker, MD, and Reba, Rebel, whatever name she wants to use this week. It was kind of a perfect swerve because, she came in, she had the crutches. I can't go. She's not really full wrestling at all. She's a manager. And it worked out because then we know how the finish, it kind of was like a pretty good story. And then it was a great swerve because everybody wanted Maki Ito, even though she was a subpar wrestler compared to a lot of the girls in the Japanese side of the tournament. Her charisma, she has the it factor no matter what. And she's still solid enough to go, but she's it. She's the one everybody wanted her to go at least to the finals or at least win another match. And it was a great swerve because here she was, and it was a perfect team up.
Yeah, I don't think anybody was really expecting it, especially because she had literally just been in a tournament like 2 days before, and then having to book it from Japan all the way to Jacksonville to get there to do that match. And it was a fun match.
I liked it, yeah.
It went much like everything else in the night, it went on a tad too long. And yep. Yeah, there were a couple of noticeable botches, but it was a fun match. Honestly, I would have preferred if it was if it was on the main show instead of the tag team elimination battle royal.
Oh, okay. All right.
And that's speaking as someone who loves tag teams, but it was just a clusterfuck.
We'll get to that in a minute. We'll stay in order. What do you give a Bible score for this buy-in?
I gave it a 2.5.
You just said it was solid. A 2.5 is an average Raw women's match.
It was an average match. It was fun.
Yeah.
I'm not saying but it wasn't like super stellar amazing.
Yeah. I don't know. I just think again, like the barbed wire match, I would have given it a 4.5, but I gave it a 4 out of 5 because of the dud ending and a little bit of that interference was too much and some of the botches. Same thing here. The Maki Ito was enough to pop me to raise a score. I was like, that just set off the tone for, and obviously I was in a good mood all night because of that until the very, very end. But I think I really just enjoyed this pay-per-view, even though, we'll get to it in a bit, but it wasn't a great pay-per-view. But I think I was just in a great mood just because they start out, oh, Maki's here. And it's like, how can you not be in a great mood if you're a Joshi fan or whatever? You know what I mean? Especially I was able to see her live a couple times last year, early in the year. So I went 3-3.25. I enjoyed the hell. It's a fun tag match. 3 great workers in there. Britt Baker is so improved. The mat work she had in there with Thunder Rosa, I thought was tremendous. Rio looked good. Rio and Ito together was so much fun. I loved it. It was a perfect buy-in match. And everyone's kind of over, which is a big deal because when you watch a buy-in match and a pre-show match in WWE, it's like this undercard guy, no one's over, no one cares usually. You know what I mean? It's like, in this one, it's like all 4 competitors were over, and it was a lot of fun. So I give it a little bit of a bump because of the excellent surprise. All right, so we're starting the card here, and of course, as usual, if they're not in the main event, they're starting off the card. The Young Bucks defend their AEW Tag Team Championship against the Inner Circle, Chris Jericho and MJF, besties forever, right? Well, we'll see. What'd you think of this match?
It was I don't want to say it was better than I expected, because you got Jericho, you have MJF, they're fantastic. You have the Bucks. The Bucks are going to do what the Bucks do. It was like, so going in, we knew it was going to be a good match, but I was pleasantly surprised that I actually enjoyed it a little bit more than I thought I was going to. I really, really like the team of Jericho and MJF together. It's going to be a shame when MJF stabs them in the back
on Wednesday.
But I really, really, really like them together, like their entire dynamic. Even going back to when MJF was trying to get into the Inner Circle, there's a reason the New York Times voted that one of the greatest moments in TV, period.
Wow. That's amazing. That's impressive.
They are really, really good together. And I think part of that is, one, Jericho's adaptability, because he can play off anyone. It's like when he and KO were still doing the Best Friends Festival of Friendship shit. I was like, fantastic work. And it's basically doing the same thing with MJF, and It's fantastic. I love it.
Yep.
I never want it to end, but it's gonna end on Wednesday.
On Wednesday, likely. So before we even talk about the match, I think Jericho's going face because Moxley and Cody are basically going to be on paternity leave. So if you could tell by the end of those matches that they were in, and both of their lovely ladies are pregos, so that kind of makes sense. At least if they're not completely on leave, to maybe give some time, take a couple weeks off here and there, and to spend more time with their ladies. So it's possible that they need another baby face thrown in there, seeing how Kenny is the ultimate bad guy right now. Chris Jericho going babyface makes a lot of sense. And then, it even makes a lot of sense bringing back the Sex Gods and Sammy Guevara and Chris Jericho after all that as a babyface tag team.
Yeah, I could see that.
That could be another step up. I don't even know what's up. I expected Sammy actually to interfere in this match, but I think he silently got the slap on the wrist for the Impact debacle. What do you think?
Yeah, I honestly wouldn't be surprised if that's what's going on too. And rightfully so, because that was a really fucking dumb idea, Sammy. Like, yeah, I'm gonna go in and I'm gonna win this other win this other promotion's championship, and I'm just gonna never defend it ever.
It's like, Sammy, nobody watches Impact. Just go there and do what you gotta do, and it's not gonna matter. It doesn't matter. Nothing there matters. It's like, come on. So, all right. Well, Jericho did definitely, he hit some spots, but he is aging, and that was apparent in the match. MJF was absolutely terrific. The buddies I told you that came over my house, they don't watch a lot of AEW. They heard a lot about MJF, of course, and they were impressed. And I agree. Like, the guy His charisma is his in-ring work is catching up with his charisma, and his charisma is just through the roof. Some of the Ric Flair stuff he was doing yesterday, and the dancing and mocking, the suck it stuff to Matt was awesome. And of course, I mean, the Young Bucks, people hate them. Sean and Sean show fucking hate them. They're cornies. What can I say? But the Bucks, they went in there and they always tear the house down. They're the greatest tag team of all time. Period. I mean, they went in there. And
I was like, and I think it was Tony Schiavone who mentioned it on commentary that that like or hate him, one of the Bucks' biggest strengths is is adaptability to their opponents. That bringing out all kinds of different things. Of course, the fact that they just came out with sharpshooters, just cause. Let's see, what else was I going to say about that match?
I would say this: the Bucks definitely brawled a lot more than usual. They brought back the super kick party, and what's funny is they never slapped the knee. So I think there was a little bit of inside baseball there with the the fun stuff with WWE's rule book right now, a locker room rule book, and then also definitely they let Jericho and they let MJF get under their skin, and usually the Bucks are very composed, they're kind of the chill out dudes, California dudes, but they were like red hot this match. You could kind of see it, between Papa Buck, what happened to him, and then just the constant mocking for MJF. I thought I saw a lot more angst from the Bucks in this match, and it's the little things. I think people watch the Bucks that aren't big AEW fans or big Bucks fans. They see the super kicks, they see the spots. You gotta wait because that's what all spots are for. You're waiting for it's what the Bucks do. They do it, they get away with it. It pisses a lot of people off, but it's all these other little things that it's all, that's what makes the Bucks to me is, like you said, the double sharpshooters and then the angst. It's like they're throwing in every match has something new, but it's really, you got to pay attention. You can't just see it on the surface. So what do you go with the Bible score on this one?
So I gave this one a 3.75. I really, really enjoyed this match.
Solid score. I went 4 out of 5. I think I enjoyed it a lot more and then kind of thought about it later, but still really thought it was one of the top 3 matches on the card. Your favorite match, the Casino Tag Team Royale.
With cheese.
At least the right.
Lots of cheese.
Yeah, lots of cheese, but the right guy won, or the right team, I should say. Two of the Death Triangle members, Pac and Phoenix. And Phoenix, of course, was the last man standing. And those last 5 minutes with Jungle Boy. I mean, this is the future of AEW. I mean, Phoenix has been around for a long time, but he's still young enough to go for who knows, as long as he don't kill himself like he could in any match. But as barring injury, this guy and Jungle Boy are, along with MJF and a couple other guys. I mean, this is the future. These are the guys you want in the title picture. Once the Jerichos, the Codys, the Moxleys, whatever, are kind of out of it. This is who I want to see for the AEW World Title, and then before that, probably the TNT title. But I mean, what'd you think?
So I was not a fan of this match at all. It was at all. Pretty much up until the last 5 minutes. And Jungle Boy, and I was like, and that kind of raised my score a little bit. But I honestly feel like that last 5 minutes, it was just better than the whole rest of the match.
Yeah.
Sure, it was cool that Mike Seidel was there with Matt. Then of course we have like a little bit of dissension with the Natural Nightmares now, and it was great to see all 855 Dark Order teams. But
except Evil Uno, those 2 botches he had. Did you notice those?
I saw one of them, and I was like, I saw one of them, and
I know they were like all in the same. They were all in the same motion, basically. Like he failed with Marco Stunt. He was waiting forever, and a lot of it had to do with Marco Stunt, but it was just Evil Uno mistake, and then someone was against a ring post. I forgot, it could have been Stunt, and I believe Evil Uno just waited, then ran into the ring post, and it looked John Cena into the staircase. bad. It was probably worse than that, but it was basically botchamania. I mean, 2 botches.
It was absolutely no. I actually did see that. It was absolutely ridiculous. And I actually saw that on and that was like the second thing I heard about Revolution on Twitter before I actually watched it. First thing was the dud. It was the dud, and then everyone else was like Evil Uno and Marco Stunt. God, that was awful.
That's a match I don't even want to see on Dark.
No, or Elevation. No, it was. I just was not into that match at all, and it really pains me to say this because I love tag teams. That's why I love AEW, because they love tag teams.
Yeah.
And no, I just like for the majority of that match, I just didn't care.
Well,
Phoenix and Jungle Boy, fucking fantastic. That could have been the entire match, and I would have been happy.
Yeah. No, honestly, the last 5 minutes were good enough for me. And I thought Peter Avalon went out way too fast. Just kidding. Him and Cesar Bonotti, the pretty picture. Come on, they're the greatest tag team ever. But yeah, there was a lot of fun. It was a fun match. I think they had a lot of spots. It was definitely a mess. And I think a lot of it had to do, there was an actual countdown, unlike WWE's kayfabe countdown, where they can kind of work it out a little bit. These guys had to rush their shit in. And that's tough in a fucking battle royal. And it was basically a tag team Royal Rumble. It was different than the casino battle royal that we usually see, where it's random groups of wrestlers coming in at different times, and you don't know which group, and we don't know the groups. That's the whole point of the casino. And this one, they kind of just did, all right, now every 90 seconds is a tag team. But of course they can't call it a Royal Rumble. But I don't know. I thought it was fine. I'm wondering, why no Joey Janela and Sonny Kiss?
That is a good question.
Sonny Kiss was just in the crowd. I didn't even really see Janela, but
Janela probably, I was like, I wouldn't be surprised if Janela has COVID.
Well, I think that's our answer. Bible score for the Casino Tag Royal.
I gave it a 2.5.
Okay.
It got an extra half a point for me for Phoenix and Jungle Boy, but beyond that,
yeah. I just thought the last 5 minutes were like, I mean, that spot Phoenix had before he faced Jungle Boy, when he was, doing the walk on the ropes, and that punt, that elimination, there was a lot of cool eliminations. I think just the last spot was like a 4.5 alone, and then maybe the rest of the battle royal was like a 3 to me, but I went 3.5 just because I gave it a big bump with that last 5 minutes was enough for me. Okay, big match right here, pretty early in the card. AEW Women's Championship, Hikaru Shida defends against the tournament winner from Japan. Actually, the tournament winner period in the women's tournament they just had the last few weeks, Ryo Mizunami. And what'd you think of this one?
I love this match. Shida was just going hardcore and stiff as fuck with those forearms, man.
It's on fire, yeah.
I loved that match. It was great to see, and it was great to see it actually feel like it was getting respect. Like, I love Shida. Shida might possibly be my favorite woman on the roster. Like, she's great. And the fact that after all those draws that she was finally able to get the win was also great. So, you had the little story there. And then you had the ending where you got jumped from where Maki and Dr. Britt Baker DMD and Reba jumped them with Thunder Rosa coming in to make the save.
Well, Nyla too.
Oh yeah.
So it's basically like a new Bad Girls Club. I don't know what they're calling it, but it's kind of like a new faction we're seeing.
With Vicky Guerrero calling the shots. Yeah, I'm very excited to see where this goes, and which means I'll be watching a lot of Dark on Tuesday, because that's where AEW hides the women.
Oh God! Oh man. I'm glad you said it though, for sure. And I thought this is too low on the card. I get where they're trying to break up some of the monotony. They could have thrown in some of these other matches first, kind of built this up. That was too early on the card. I thought this match suffered the most without having that big crowd, because I think AEW fans are unlike other fans. I think this match would have died in WWE. Maybe NXT would have did pretty good because they used more small arenas as more diehard fans, but WWE, this match would have died. A Joshi match that just went on did go on pretty long for, but I think if it's built up and towards a later in the card, the length would have been fine. And even though it's a championship, it's like very early. It's like the third match we're talking about here, and it's like we just kind of saw some Joshi women earlier, so I would have beefing this up later. And it was way too many false finishes. I think there was one I rewatched the match actually and got home today, and from doing things, and there was an Insiguri that was to a false finish. And Insiguri, we see that move a gazillion times. I mean, the flying knee that Sheeta does, this is her signature move. There was a couple. We had 2 false finishes on 2 of those, and she threw 3 of them. And then there was a couple other things. And I thought the actual watching on the replay, she did like a corkscrew kick to the face, and it was actually a awesome finish, but it felt flat because of how many false finishes they had. It was like there were so many false finishes that when it did end, it was like, oh, it ended. It was like, yeah. I think that's kind of what happened. They went, I don't want to say time like 5 minutes. I think the time is fine. It was just too many false finishes in a row. They were tremendous, but when you finally got that really cool looking kick, is kind of like, I don't know. I just thought it was too long, and also not having the hardcore crowd. It was, you could hear the managers. I mean, not the wrestlers from Dark rooting them on, but it's not the same as like the educated traveling fans who like, go to Japan or know the Joshi stuff. It's a different buzz. And I kind of felt that with this one. That said, I'm still going 3.75 with it. I think as a match, it's definitely a 4. I just think all the variables that I've talked about really kind of, even watching it again, I was like, yeah, they messed up with this one, I thought. But you?
I gave it a 4.
Okay, cool.
I love that match.
Yeah, no, it was definitely, they worked their ass off. Also, I mean, maybe a little too soon for Ryo Mizunami. I know she was at Double or Nothing when I was there a few years ago, 2019, when they had an opening Joshi match, tag match. But yeah, I mean, we hadn't seen much of her. A lot of people who probably did attend this didn't watch on YouTube and stuff. So crowd was real quiet for this one, other than the performers. So that definitely killed it for me. Next match, we had Rusev Day, Miro, and Kip Sabian versus OC Orange Cassidy and Charles. Where's Charles? Chuck Taylor. I'm just gonna say this match should have been on Dynamite or Dark, or it did. I know they're trying to give Miro his shine. He's Rusev. And Orange Cassidy's been tremendous for them. I mean, with the live crowd, he's one of the most over guys. But yeah, this filler. It's filler.
It did not feel like a pay-per-view level match. Like, I'm glad we finally got to see Miro do stuff and be the monster that he should be, that they brought him in to be, actually living up to that best man moniker. Because otherwise, because up until this entire point, all he's basically been doing is just being a douche. with the hair and the ridiculous $5,000 ugly sin shirt, just to say it's a $5,000 shirt, like it's 2003 and he's The Rock. Except not winning.
Yeah.
So it was good to see him actually do stuff, but honestly, yeah, I agree with you. This should have been on Dynamite or Dark somewhere. It was not pay-per-view level, and it was just there, and it just served to continue to make it feel like, to make the show feel bloated.
Yep, it definitely did that. And I mean, no one cares about Kip Sabian or Chuck Taylor to the point where they should be on a pay-per-view. I think on a Dark, Elevation, like these guys are highlights on those shows, right? I mean, okay, Chuck Taylor, great worker, PWG champ, former PWG. Kip Sabian's up and coming guy, but not yet, not now, not in this. Maybe even a Miro versus Orange Cassidy would have been more of a marquee match. That would have been fine, but yeah, this was just not it.
And then on top of that, you still have Penelope just being over on the wayside. And I know Sean would agree and say honestly that Penelope was the best part of her previous relationship. She's the best part of her current relationship. She shouldn't be like an afterthought at her own fucking wedding. Just saying.
No. I mean, even in ring working, she's better. So I don't understand what's going. They're trying to use her as a piece here, but yeah, it just hasn't worked. It's time to move on from this. I don't know what they're gonna do, but time to move on.
Kip does his best work when he's being a cheerleader for Penelope.
Mm-hmm. Yep, and I want to see Miro get in there with Lance Archer. I want to see him start working against some of these other, some of these guys now they got. Just too many matches on this pay-per-view. 3.5 hours would have been good. The half-hour buy-in, 3-hour show, similar to TakeOver, maybe a little longer than TakeOver because they got a lot more. It's the whole federation. TakeOver is one brand on a fed, but we don't need 4.5 hours for this. I mean, I don't know. On Saturday night, I watched UFC and it was 7 hours, and I didn't think the actual UFC pay-per-view was that good, but I made it through. I didn't fall asleep. But that's UFC, and that's with no fans. But wrestling, it's kayfabe. I don't know. 4.5 is too long unless you're Wrestle Kingdom or WrestleMania. I think it's 4.5 for every pay-per-view is too long. It's bloated. So maybe having some of these new shows that they're talking about, maybe it'll help give their huge roster some shine. Speaking of,
I think the other issue too is since since AEW only does do the big four, that's probably their thinking too. It was like, oh well, if we're only going to do 4 pay-per-views, we have to treat them like the other guys as big four, so they have to last all day because we're not doing them every month.
Yeah, well, I'm glad they're not doing them every month, but maybe they can do 6 pay-per-views. But not everyone, again, not everyone has to be on a damn pay-per-view. That's the biggest problem with this is why WrestleMania I thought was pretty good during the pandemic, because they didn't use everybody. They didn't have this COVID. They could only use, they could only use a certain amount of people. So anyway, getting back into it, too many matches. Speaking of too many matches, the big money match, Hangman Adam Page against Matt Hardy is just another match to me that belonged on Dynamite.
Agreed. And which really sucked was because I was actually looking forward to this match, and it didn't really live up to what I thought it could have been.
Yep.
It was I don't want to say it was underwhelming.
Yep.
Because it wasn't, but it wasn't there. Matt versus Hangman should have been on paper a really, really great match, and there were some great spots. That twist of fate on the floor was great. But I agree. It just didn't really need to be there.
Yep.
But hey, Hangman gets all of Matt Hardy's money while Matt Hardy's wife is expecting a new baby. So yay.
I don't know. These kayfabe rules though don't really do it for me. But I think if I watch the same match on Dynamite, I like it so much more. Even if it's the same, everything's the same. The work, the result, it's placing, it's timing. We were to start this Wednesday, it's something to look forward to after the pay-per-view. Okay, we're coming off a pay-per-view, good pay-per-view, and now we got a hot match. We get to finally, you can do that. You can build matches for the show after the pay-per-view that have nothing to do with the pay. You don't have to, not everything needs to build from the pay-per-view. It should, but then if you don't include stuff from the pay-per-view, you got a 2-hour show to work with. It didn't belong here. But I understand the rising stardom of Page. He's one of their best workers. They're really pushing this guy through the roof. They didn't want to give this guy one of their 4 pay-per-views off, like you said. And, the legend status of Matt Hardy. But, it was just a match. I give this and the previous match 2.75. I mean, they were if I watch him on Dynamite and I had to score him, I'd go 3-2-5 maybe. I give him a bump because it's a TV match. I'm like, those are good TV matches, but they're not good pay-per-view matches.
So I gave this match a 2.75. I gave the previous match a 2.5 for pretty much the same reason. They just didn't need to be there at all.
Yep. Yeah. I thought Orange Cassidy looked really good in that previous match. I thought he did real well. But he was overshadowed just by the other lackluster part of it. All right, the Face of the Revolution ladder match. So this is going to be like their new Money in the Bank thing, I think. The aforementioned Cody, and then Scorpio Sky, who was my pick, and he won. And then we also had Penta El Cero Miedo, Lance Archer, the fake Drake, Max Caster, and the big surprise, Ethan Page. All ego, Ethan Page. So, what'd you think of this match? I have a lot of thoughts, but go ahead.
So I actually really I don't want actually I take that back. So this was probably my if it wasn't for the main event, this would have been my match of the night. I really enjoyed the ladder match a lot. Like the correct person won. And honestly, Scorpio Sky should have been in that position a long time ago. It seemed like they were going to position him that way. And then he just basically disappeared. And then he showed up on Dark, and then he cut a promo that was basically, I'm coming for the TNT Championship, and then cricket. So the fact that he's finally being put in the place that he should have been a long ass time ago. Especially now that he's broken off more into a singles wrestler, while Kaz and Daniels stay in that tag team for SCU. Was really is really, really good. I was happy to see Ethan Page. I love Ethan Page. I frequently say that my goal in life is to find a guy who looks at me like Ethan Page looks at Cinnamon Toast Crunch pancakes on cheat day.
My goodness. I think Ethan did a great job taking bumps. He made everyone look good. So that was his job. Someone had to get slaughtered in this match. It was Ethan. But he did it a huge razor's edge to Archer later on. So that was a huge spot we should not overlook. And yeah, I don't know. Otherwise, they probably they shouldn't have. Tony Khan did a great job at not really. He was more talking about Paul White's surprise than this one, but because it was still a surprise that they announced, people still blew out of proportion. Is it going to be RVD? Is it going to be Christian Cage? Is it going to be the Laredo Kid from CMLL, which he's not as big of a name as Ethan, but for the marks, the diehards, that would have been a better choice. I don't know. I just think again, they probably should have had the 6th spot there and left it be and not said a damn thing, or maybe just had 5. This is the 5 guys, and then someone's music hits. It's classic. It's 80s, it's 90s wrestling. WWE use those tropes. They work, right? The old WCW, where here's the match. Music hits. Okay, you're in the match. All right. Have Tony Khan. I don't know. Have someone come down and okay, we're signing you up. Boom, go get out there, kid. Go. I don't know. Just something, make it more of a surprise. Either way, he did his thing. Let's see what we got here.
Oh, grabbing the brass ring is way too on the nose.
Yeah, I mean, it bothered me too much. That was fine. That was kind of funny. It added some comedic element to it. So
it was. I really do think I was like when they actually started the laddering at the ladder match. I was like, oh my god, it is literally a brass ring. Cody, Vince is never going to apologize. He's never going to tell you that you're his special boy.
I don't think Cody's worried about that.
It's it's just way. It was just way too on the nose to have a brass ring. Although I did see some great Sonic memes from it later. So.
That's funny. Hey, do you think Max Caster was out of place in this? I thought he did pretty well. He wasn't great, but I thought he did fine.
Yeah, I thought he was okay, but I did still think he was a little out of place when I remember when they announced it, and I was like, what? Why?
Well, I mean, he did have to win a match. He beat number 10, but I mean, AEW's, here's a difference, right? They do push their young talent. Whether they win or lose, they get put in the spot. They're not on main event. They're not on dark. They're here in the pay-per-view. So I know we're trashing like, oh, we don't need Kip Sabian here. We don't. It's like, but they want the young guys to work. You know, it's like they want them to put as much as they keep signing all these WWE guys, the guys they're throwing out there in the spotlight, besides your Moxleys and Jerichos, I mean, they are the young guys. So, you know, kudos to them for that. I hope his knee is okay on that ladder bomb. He did a ladder power bomb, kind of a sitting one, but he fell on his knee. So I hope he's okay. He seemed fine. I thought Scorpio Sky was going to do a lot more like a la Kofi Kingston or whatever, but he didn't do a whole lot of dangerous spots. I mean, he was athletic and he was, you know, definitely qualifiable, but he seemed kind of safe out there. A lot of guys did. I mean, there's not really too many memorable ladder spots. I mean, how many ladder matches have we seen in ROH with the Young Bucks, with SCU or some of these other teams? And there's with Adam Cole, there's so many memorable spots, but they didn't really go in the danger department with this one.
It's probably at that point now where it's, well, how can you keep innovating the ladder match? We had what, 3 or 4 ladder wars in ROH. We had like 3 ladder wars in ROH, which were just Generico and Steen. So they did their stuff. Then we had the Bucks request ROH to bring ladder wars back so they could wrestle SCU. We watched Christopher Daniels basically being a walking bloodstain.
I was just thinking that.
And then of course there's all of the crazy innovative spots that over in the Fed that they did with they did in TLC.
Yep.
It's just at this point now, like, how much innovation can you really left to do?
Yeah.
Unless you're like what, you're gonna put somebody through 6 ladders?
Yeah, they didn't really do anything wild, but they did. It was a quality match for the ladder match. You know, I went 3.75, maybe even 3.5, 3.75.
So I gave it a 4. I gave it a 4.25.
Hey, even Sean Puff gave this a 4. It's a spot monkey match. He gave it 4. That guy's unpredictable.
It was a great match, Travis.
Hey, speaking of which, Sean almost replaced you because we had such a heated debate last night, and then he pussied out as usual. I messaged him right before the show, and we were going to have him on as a third guest. And he's like, oh, I just woke up. I was like, yeah, good timing, Cornette. So when it comes down to you could talk all that talking smack in the Ringside Apostles chat, but then when you want to actually go, PTP in this motherfucker, he didn't want to do it. So, all right. Speaking
I
of
woke up to like 200 messages about the end of Revolution.
There's more to life, right? And we had a street fight because it would have been me and Sean in the street fight right here on the Zoom chat, but he didn't show up. So we had the legendary Sting and Darby Allin versus Brian Cage and Ricky Starks. This was awesome. I fucking loved it.
I was very, very glad that it was a cinematic match.
For Sting's sake.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I don't ever want to see Sting do anything other than cinematic matches ever again.
Even though during the angles on Dynamite the last couple weeks, he looks capable.
He does. And he does look capable. But you know what? Sting is going to be 62 next week. I don't ever want him to do anything else other than cinematic matches.
He looked totally badass in this.
He really did. He really did. They did a really, really, really great job with this fight with this, and it probably might replace it. It's coming really close to replacing the Stadium Stampede as my favorite AEW cinematic match.
Woo! That's high praise. It was very similar to the Boneyard match, but it had a ring. What'd you think of that ring?
I wondered why there was a ring there in a street fight.
I thought it was awesome. It was different than the other cinematic matches. They had a ring, and it was like a dusty. It's like, put it this way, it was Darby Allin's probably vision of like Tony Hawk Pro Skater garage level. But let's throw a fucking ring in there. It's a wrestling match, right? And then you get the pipelines, and you got, it's like got the whole warehouse. You get the staircase and the deep passages. I mean, throwing in the ring gives it a wrestling vibe, and they weren't in the ring too long, but yet Sting and Starks mostly in the ring. But if the whole match was in the ring, it would have been a mess. But they had some great moments in this like really cool noirish black and white dusty Tony Hawk ring. I thought it was super cool.
In black and white, that was so cool. And no, you're right. It's different, but I always feel weird when I see rings in cinematic matches like that.
Well, when has there ever been? There's rings in the
last Deletion match.
Well, yeah, all the Hardy ones have them in the backyard. We're talking about like on the second floor of this like underground warehouse indie. Like, I don't know. It's a different aesthetic to me.
Someone actually said on Twitter, and I said on Twitter, and I died laughing like so hard that I snorted, which was, oh, so that's what happened to Raw Underground.
That's perfect. That's perfect. I thought the Cage versus Darby stuff was so great. That suplex lock carry up the staircase, that might have been the moment of the match. And then, of course, Allen had his crash and burn elbow, even though I do wish it was a super coffin drop. That would have been magnifique. Yeah, and then the Scorpion Death Drop to finish it. There's a lot of cool action, a lot of other spots. We saw Will Hobbs. We saw Taz's Kid Hook. But yeah, it was cool, and they overcame that. And what'd you think of the way they designed it? With it still had the background music that we always see in cinematics to build up the thematic feel. But they had the commentary on it this time. I mean, we had commentary versus it wasn't a cinematic match, but like remember Edge and Orton's kind of backstage match, and there's commentary. It was almost like we made fun of it on the show. Actually, we were saying like it was it sounded like they were announcing golf, like the PGA Tour or something. How quiet they were. But here you had Taz doing commentary. So I actually really enjoyed the commentary, even though it was awkward. It was like I liked it.
I actually did not mind the commentary as much as I expected to. Because they first started doing commentary, and I'm like, why? And then as it went on, it kind of grew on me. I'm like, okay, all right. Because like you said, it's not like it was the little golf whispering like they did over in the Fed. It was actual commentary, and it did actually grow on me. So, but I liked the entire way that it was set up. I liked that they shot it in black and white. I liked most of the spots. I really enjoyed the cinematic match. But I always enjoy cinematic matches, except the last Hardy match, and except the last Matt Hardy match, and God bless it. I was like, God bless it. I love you, Big Swole. But that match in Dr. Britt Baker DMD's office was the drizzlest shits.
You're talking about the Matt Hardy match from Full Gear.
Yeah.
Yeah, with Sammy and the pretty people, party people.
Yeah,
private party. All right. Overall, what do you give before we get into overall, what do you give this match out of 5?
So I actually gave this the same as the ladder match, 4.25. I really enjoyed it a lot. And I was actually not expecting to, despite my inherent goofy love of cinematic matches.
Yep, same thing. I've loved the Firefly Funhouse. I love the Boneyard match. Love the Stampede. Love this one. It carries on that tradition. 4.5 for me. I'm a huge Sting mark. I'm not gonna lie. I thought the other guys were tremendous. I thought just everything together. It was about as good as you could get right now. There's so many, like we were just talking about, there's so many great cinematic matches. How do you do something different? They did it. So they did it here. They did what was right, and everyone looked great. It was fun. Yeah, tremendous. 4.5. Okay, overall matches. I gave the card a solid 3.5 out of 5 because we had a couple matches should have been on dark. A couple matches went on too long. Some weird things happened as we recalled early in the show, and then even later on, some things that really ruined a couple matches from being great. There was no match on this card I gave over a 4, and it's AEW. So we expect a lot more. But we're in the COVID era. There hasn't been a whole lot of matches, even in New Japan, I've been giving over 4, and certainly not in WWE and hardly in NXT. So it's been really rough lately this year so far with high score matches, but we're getting quality wrestling this year. That's for sure. There's been a lot of quality. So I give 3.5 out of 5 on the matches. Entertainment. So here's how I broke it down. 1 for the dud. I think I gave Christian's announcement a 3.25 because they oversold it, but he's a quality pickup. The cinematic match, entertainment wise, was a 5 out of 5. Okay. And then I gave the match a 4.5, but the cinematic match, and then everything else was pretty much, if you throw away the mistakes, 4.25 out of 5 for entertainment. I was entertained through the whole show. Minus like a couple matches that could have been on Dynamite, but I don't know. I love watching this pay-per-view with my buddies. We all had fun watching it. Overall, the entertainment score does get a 3.25 because of that huge mistake at the end. There's no denying that. It ruined the show from being a great show. It went from a great show to a very good show. There's nothing wrong with good shows, guys. There's nothing wrong with good stuff. There's nothing wrong with good video games. There's nothing wrong with good books. There's nothing wrong with good music. There's nothing wrong with a good whatever. Things can be good. Things can be okay. Not everything needs to be amazing and trash. So fuck you guys. Seriously, I'm tired of it. Everything.
I think you need to save that for the Snyder Cut this weekend.
What's that again? I'm so sorry. I was in a rant.
I think you need to save that for the Snyder Cut this weekend.
And I'm on that. Oh, by the way, God Hates Geeks, we're doing that show, and I guess I'm on that one. Fuck, I'm fucked. So, anyways, 3.5 out of 5 overall. I had rewatched Full Gear before this, and that was better than this. But what are you gonna do? It was a good show. Couple mistakes, too bloated. Hopefully, lessons are learned. Go ahead.
I agree. I gave it a little bit less than you, 3.25. But overall, I was entertained. It was a good show. I was awake. I was awake. I don't know that I would have been awake for it if I had watched it live.
Yeah.
If my local Cinemark had been showing it, I probably would have been asleep during the theater at some point. But
Ouch.
Overall, just because it went on so fucking long, it was still it was like 1:45 a.m. and I was still hearing about it.
Oh God. Well, yeah. See, we're on the West Coast, so we started watching like 3:30. So it's like whatever. It's fine. 4 o'clock. I think 4 o'clock actually. 4 to like 8 or something. It's not too bad. 4 to 8:30. So not too bad here. But yeah, I can imagine. You said 1:20. I think that would be 11:30. I think it ended on the East Coast.
Yeah. I said 1:45, but
no, I think it would have been 1:30 in the morning. I mean 11:30.
If like my phone, like my watch was still vibrating at 1:45 with people talking about it, and not just the Apostles group chat. I had like 2 other group chats, and my watch was just going off like all fucking night. But yeah, I gave it 3.25. I was entertained. It was a good show. Bloated. A lot of things went on too long, which was basically the theme of the night.
Yep.
Just things were too long, but I liked it.
Yeah. I had a great time watching it. I liked it a lot better till I sat down and analyzed everything. But Still a great show. I went back and watched some of the matches. I had kind of the NBA All-Star game on. We were playing Nintendo Switch. Some of the matches I didn't get to really focus on. So I was glad I kind of went back and focused on some of those. But speaking of wrestling that's up late, New Japan Cup 2021, that's going on. We'll talk about it really quickly. Night one, you did see, man, maybe the best match of the year, Toriano versus Bad Luck Valet.
Just the greatest thing I've ever seen in my life. No, actually, I do. And speaking as a Yano apologist, I've said before that a competent Yano is a dangerous Yano. This was not that Yano. Like, I want, whenever Yano wrestles in the New Japan Cup, I want to see G1 Yano, because G1 Yano is dangerous. G1 Yano is the Yano that Kenny keeps ducking.
Yeah, but he won. He won the match.
He did win the match. It still was not a good match.
No, I gave it a 17 out of 5, aka 2 Bibles. It's like one of those matches, like the picture alone of Fale knocked out on the ground and Yano's hands tied to him. You'll see it on the screen. That's like an infinite Bible score. But the match was, the match
Yano.
was terrible.
I love Yano's Gaga. Like, I love all the Gaga in the Yano match. And no, and to be fair, when they announced they're like Toriano versus Valet, I almost just immediately fast forward to the next match.
Well, I hope you fast forwarded to the ending at least. There was another. We're not gonna go over the undercard. There's a bunch of tag matches, but the main event of that show, night one, was Goto versus Tai Chi. What'd you think of that one?
It was an okay. It was a solid match. Like, Goto's always really good. But it was still kind of but night one was just kind of meh overall to me.
Oh yeah.
I was like, and I really need to watch night two because I've heard some really great things about matches in night two.
Do you have it spoiled for you yet? Do you know who won?
I actually do not know who won.
Okay, I won't say who won.
I don't know who won, but I've heard good things.
Okay, we won't do spoilers here. We won't even do the results of this New Japan Cup, but I gave Goto Tai Chi at 3.75, so it was really excellent match. But yeah, I mean, it's not a marquee you'd want to see, like Goto versus Tai Chi. Like, how's that a main event? But this is the New Japan Cup. Night two, Suzuki and Hanma actually overachieved. I mean, I should say Hanma overachieved. No one expected much out of this. It was awesome. Some people are giving this 4 out of 5. I gave it 3.75, but it was hell of a match. Go out of your way to see it. But the match of the cup so far, Kazuchika Okada against Shingo Takagi. Wow. This was definitely one of the better matches of the year. Not quite G1 level, but I'd say G1 level on the lower tier. Not quite a match of the year type, but match of the year for 2021 so far. It's up there. But I gave it a 4.25. Great match. Go out of your way to see it. It's not as typical as you think. Just go.
That's the match I'm hearing. That's the match I'm hearing a lot about.
Yeah, and before that was Kenta and Juice. They had a very strong match. Nice to see Juice Robinson. I hadn't seen him in a while. So, yeah, and Kenta's always pretty consistent. And then night 3, I saw there was 6 minutes left, and I was like, really? Zack Sabre Jr. and Gabriel Kidd is the only cup match in the main event. You're gonna have 2 Gaijin main event a cup night in Japan, and come to find out, there was another match after that. I gave that, it was a solid 3.5. I mean, Zack Sabre and Gabriel Kidd the fighting spirit, the young lion. It was really hard hitting though. Zack Sabre and Kidd, like, really, they beat the shit out of each other, to be blunt, on night 3. Yeah. But
I'm not surprised because ZSJ is always great, and Gabriel Kidd has really been impressing me.
Yeah.
Like even before he moved over to even before he became moved over to New Japan. I caught a couple because I caught a few of his matches back when WCPW/Defiant was still a thing. And kind of I was like, and he showed a lot of promise then too. So it's been really cool watching him grow into his potential.
Yep. Yeah, so this is sort of a breakout match for him. And then the main event, there was another match. I mean, I could swear it was like 7-8 minutes left of the show, but they had another match, and this was actually a great 6-minute, 7-minute, whatever it was. Will Osprey versus Tenzon. Didn't expect that at all. This was like one of the best Tenzon shouldn't even been in this thing. Guy could barely walk, but Osprey made him look like, like an old school Tenzon. He looks great. Gave this a little bit more than a 3.5. That was a really solid match. And it was a quick main event. After a very long Zack Sabre Gabriel Kidd, I think they went like 18 minutes, and then they just main event 6 minutes. It was kind of crazy, but very enjoyable. And then by the time you guys watch this, night 4 and night 5 will be over probably, but night 4 tonight, in case you haven't seen it, in Okayama will be Nagata versus Yoda and right here, the Stone Pitbull, Tomohiro Ishii, we're going against Sonata. So that should be excellent in Cup action. One thing I do like about the New Japan Cup is what you mentioned, Gabriel Kidd, Yota Tsuji. We do see the young lions in this. So we're not going to see him in G1, right? More than likely, we're not going to see them. And thank God for that, right? But for this, it's a good way to throw those young lions into the, they're getting the semi-main events. They're not, they're almost there. They're getting there. Like, what are these kids? They worked on this stuff all year, right? So it's let's see what they got capable. So they have no problem pushing them in these cups, and there is a lot of upset. So it's been fun. It's nice to watch New Japan almost every day, like five days a week. A lot of it is because of the timing. You don't have to watch it live. It's not like Dynamite or at Takeover. You don't have to watch it on Wednesday. Like you said, you haven't even seen night 2 and night 3 yet. You can watch it later on. You can watch it with your coffee in the morning. You can watch it when you get home from work with dinner. So it's nice. It's just nice to have. And the shows are short. They're like, in some of the undercards, a lot of fun. All the big stars are there. Naito, Okada, Tanahashi, just doing mixed tag stuff, building stories towards the next big shows. And yes, I enjoy it. That's it.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to watching night 2, especially. So yeah, I really need to catch up. I've really been slacking.
So just like the AEW pay-per-view, we did not go out with a bang. Sorry, guys. So little flat there with a Tenzon is the last thing we're going to talk about. But yeah, if you love New Japan, don't miss the cup. Destiny, it's been a pleasure. Episode 3, we'll have to come back. We're going to be doing, as I promised on the Gamescast, we're going to be doing a full Geekdom Gamescast meets Ringside Apostles. So we're going to be talking nothing but wrestling games. You ready for that one or what? You've been playing any wrestling games or what?
Okay, so obviously I got Wrestling Empire for the Switch. That's actually sitting. That I've actually paused for a bit to do some extra shit in Animal Crossing and play a game that I bought for the 6th time. But I actually really do need to go back to
Wrestling Empire is life. Fuck Animal Crossing. That's so pandemic.
Go back to it because I have to because there's some more people I wanted to create, and it's just been I need to come back to it.
Yeah. You and D Assassina, I got quite the rivalry in my wrestling evolution in Wrestling Empire. I love sharing the news clippings or the internet, the dirt sheets. I love what goes on.
Am I still the cruiserweight champ?
I think so. Yeah, I haven't. I don't know. How it is. They only show certain dirt sheets. I don't know them all. So, but it is funny. I think Felipe, I think Felipe lost to D in the gender titles where it's like inner title. So it's like the intergender title. So I think it's woman versus man, and I think D put the sharpshooter on Felipe. So that was it for him. So. Yeah, and then we got Retromania. It's out on PC. It's supposed to be out on Switch soon. I know they're in a delay. Maybe by the time you watch this, it'll be out. But it's supposed to be out this month, right? March.
Yeah, it was originally because it was originally supposed to drop early February, and then it got delayed. And then there's like 3 more wrestling games coming out.
Yeah, Action Arcade Wrestling. I botched it on the Gamescast, but that's what AAW is. Yeah.
And then we got and then of course there's the AEW game. I'm sorry, the AEW games. Because I guess at some point you have to play it on your phone too for the mobile game.
Yep, the manager game. Yep.
So yeah, it's just like a weird renaissance of wrestling games right now. Yeah. I'm both excited and confused.
Well, it's perfect for us because we get to cross over 2 of our 3 podcasts that we got going on the God Hates Geeks channel. So like, subscribe. We've got it all. We'll be doing more. Of course, Toy Kind of Mood is every week. The Geekdom Gamescast was every week, but there's hardly any video game news. So we do the best we can there. And wrestling, when there's a big show, we'll do a show for now. So that'll be it. I'm sure Sean and Sean show. I might just cancel that after the way they reacted to this Revolution pay-per-view. But no, we'll probably be seeing episode 2 from those guys coming up soon. Looking forward to it. I hope they have a rebuttal. I hope they watch this and have a rebuttal for their boss. If you want to say, they're Tony Khan, what are you going to say to me, brother? Destiny, it's been a good time. Thanks so much for joining me tonight. Thank you.
Absolutely.
All right, signing off for Travis Moody, Destiny Edwards, the Ringside Apostles, episode 3.